Carrington.
Here.
Councilmember Richard Best. Here. Councilmember Julie Berberick. Here. As established at our special meeting this evening, Deputy Mayor Linda Combs is absent.
Okay.
And Mayor Edna DeVries.
Here. Is there any objections to excusing Council or Deputy Mayor Combs? No. Okay.
We have a quorum.
So let the record show that. Okay. We'll all stand, please. And Councilwoman Sabrina Combs, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda, including the consent agenda, the approval of the minutes from October 22nd, the special and regular meeting, and October 5th, special meeting. What is the wishes of the council? Okay. Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as presented. Questions, comments, amendments? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll then?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Jill Valerius.
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs. Yes. Councilmember Steve Carrington.
Here.
Councilmember Richard Best. Here. Wait a second. Yes or no?
We can't do here. We're not the U.S. Senate here. You have to vote yes or no.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't even got you on that one. Councilmember Richard Best. Councilmember Julie Berberick.
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries.
Yes.
We have a motion passed.
Okay. Alrighty, we have an agenda. The first item on our agenda is audience participation. Anyone can address the council for 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, 5 minutes if you're representing a group. Audience participation is now open.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Palmer City Council, for allowing me to come speak today. I'm here with the aim and hope of having biohazard boxes in the city of Palmer. According to the Coalition of Safe Needle Disposal, 13.5 million people contribute to the improper disposal of 7.8 billion needles a year in garbage bags. I think people do this not maliciously, but merely because they have lack of access to proper disposal sites in their respective community. And I don't think this is a problem that only hits home in Palmer, but nationwide. I think it would be wrong to assume that the only people doing this are drug users. I would venture to say people that do dispose of needles improperly could also be people that use needles for medicinal uses. Such as I have a friend who is a diabetic. She takes insulin shots every single day in addition to B12 vitamin shots. She has milk jugs upon milk jugs in her garage full of needles because she doesn't have a place to dispose of these needles properly and on a timely basis. I think as a community we should think about providing a place for people to dispose of these needles properly so they don't end up on the streets, in garbage bags, and etc. I think there's two ways we can go about this. The economic way, which is buying biohazard boxes with locks by way of a marketplace such as Amazon. They cost around $50. Or we can go the more expensive route, which would be around $5,000, but it would mean fabricating a mailbox into a disposal site, and the blueprint to make this happen would be provided by Multnomah County in Oregon. They've had a successful needle exchange program for the past 5 years, and a woman by the name of Lisa Smith Ann Curry, who's a senior policy advisor over there, is more than willing to give us a blueprint to make something like this happen. In addition, I think, as it relates to funding, I would hope the city of Palmer would be willing to fund something like this. With that said, I've been doing some research, and there's been some governmental appropriations as it relates to this. The CDC, in addition to the state of Alaska, has determined that Alaska falls under the guidelines for a determination of need for situations like this. And I'm working with a woman by the name of Susan Jones at the CDC in Anchorage, and we're working together and talking to different people in the Department of Health to provide funding for this. I truly think this is an important issue, and if we start taking care of it now, instead of in the future, we can mitigate the problem. And I kind of also want to end it with this. There has been no cases where people have been stuck by needles in the United States and contracted HIV yet. But I have a question to pose to you guys. Do we really want to be the first city in which an individual in our community is the first? Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to come and address the council? Okay, seeing no one come forth, I'll close audience participation. The next item on our agenda is communications and appearance requests, a presentation from the 4A's Director of Development, Petra Davis, regarding support for our needle exchange program.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
due to some unforeseen, Petra Davis is not able to attend, but
Okay.
Venus Woods is here in her stead. Would you accept a presentation from her?
Yes.
Thank you.
No, I don't think so. Not for this. Go ahead. So go ahead.
Okay, so good evening. My name is Venus Woods. I am the Director of HIV Prevention and Education at the 4A's. I have with me Angela Dunn, longtime case manager.
Hi.
She's been with the 4A's for 15 years. I started with the 4A's a few months ago, so I thought I would bring an expert with me. We're gonna speak briefly about the 4A's mission and what we do in the state of Alaska. The mission of the 4A's is to support and empower individuals living with and affected by HIV/AIDS, and to eliminate HIV infection and stigma throughout all Alaskan communities. We do this by providing HIV testing, outreach, and educational events throughout Alaska. We operate the 4A Syringe Service Program in Anchorage and in Juneau. We operate the 4A's Mobile Health Unit in South Central Alaska. We distribute condoms statewide. We provide comprehensive medical case management to individuals living with HIV/AIDS, and we provide housing and nutritional assistance for HIV-positive people. Angela, can you tell us a little more about what you do to support the 4A's clients living with HIV?
We provide different services, intensive case management, housing program funded by Ryan White for the HOPWA program for people living with HIV. And also we provide Stromo, is short-term rental assistance and mortgage. We provide the ADAP program, that is the A-drug program for people living with HIV. Transportation services, vision, dental services. We have Friday lunch for our clients. We have a food bank in our facility too. Only you need to be HIV positive to qualify for these services.
I'm delighted to be here this evening to talk to you about the 4A's Mobile Health Unit and our service provisions in the Mat-Su Valley. Thanks to the support of the Mat-Su Health Foundation, the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority, and the municipality of Anchorage, in July 2018, the 4A's Mobile Health Unit started providing a comprehensive syringe service program throughout Anchorage in the Mat-Su Valley, largely operating out of the greater Wasilla area. The 4A's Mobile Health Unit operates on a harm reduction model. We provide sterile syringes and works. We collect used syringes. We can administer HIV and hepatitis C tests. And we link individuals to resources, and we give out Narcan kits. I wanted to share just some brief data with you guys from this year. In 2019, from January 1st till today, we have provided 757 HIV tests. We have provided 645 hepatitis C tests. In Mat-Su area specific, we have given out 109,267 clean needles, and we have taken in 115,498 dirty needles. Statewide, we have given out 984,467 clean syringes, and we have taken in 990,791 dirty needles off of the streets. Unfortunately, last summer the 4A's, we lost our mobile site due to the building that we were parking at. The building, that land got sold. So right now we are kind of doing a delivery model. Participants reach out to us on our cell phone or on our Facebook app, and we meet them places in the Mat-Su Valley. It's not the best model because we can't stay in one place long enough to do a test. We also can't really build relationships with these clients because it's not a stationary site. They never know where to meet us. It's nothing that's the same every week. Today we ask you to consider supporting the resolution to allow the 4A's mobile health unit to park somewhere in Palmer. We specifically think that the Mat-Su urgent care would be a great place for us to park. I hope you guys consider my request. I've provided you guys with some information from the CDC on syringe service programs, and also 4A's 2019 Community Impact Report that has a lot more data in it. Thank you.
So let me just ask you a question. So we really have two requests tonight then, right? We have one for the mobile unit parking place, and then also, former council person brought up the support for the needle exchange, so that's
So
because the mobile unit wouldn't, like the needle, in my mind, I guess, if we did this, is that what you brought? Yeah, this would be of a, more of a permanent type location that would be there all of the time, 24/7, right? But when you're talking about the mobile unit, you're only talking about coming certain days or certain
Yeah.
hours or something like that. So we're talking about two different programs.
two
tonight.
different things, yes.
Okay, good.
We already have an active exchange in place, an active syringe exchange program in place. And right now we come out to the valley Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 2.
Okay, and where do you go when you come out for that?
Well, right now we do not come out to Palmer. Right now, we're kind of, the way that we've done it since we lost our space was people will call us on the cell phone, on the 4A cell phone, and we'll meet them in a public area. Usually we'll go to the Target parking lot, or we'll go to across the street from the Native Hospital, there's a parking lot. So we're kind of just not wanting to stay in one place for too long because we don't necessarily have permission to be there. It's a public place, but we really need a stationary site.
Okay, and you mentioned the Mat-Su urgent care, which is right next door. Have you talked to Mat-Su about being able to be there?
We have
Because
not.
we can't, I mean, we as the city can't tell them what and who they will allow on their property, so you have not discussed that with them?
Not yet. We just wanted to get the city's support, and then we were gonna reach out to a couple of different agencies within Palmer to
Okay.
see if they would allow us to.
Okay,
Park
okay,
there.
good.
Yeah.
All right. Yes,
Madam Mayor?
yes, go ahead.
So when you guys are you doing testing in this mobile site with just the rapid tests?
We are. We do HIV, Hep C testing. We give out literature on all kinds of things. We give out clean needles, clean works. We give out Narcan kits. It's a pretty, it's an amazing vehicle actually. Hopefully we'll get out here and you guys can have the opportunity to come by and see it.
Cool, thank you.
Councilwoman Brewer?
Do you guys have a place in Anchorage where you have a mobile
We do.
site?
Yes, currently we're at the Brother Francis shelter and we are there 2 days a week from 9:30 to 12:30.
And you don't currently have a place in Wasilla? Do you have a place in Wasilla?
We do not.
You do not, okay.
We are working on it. And we're also working on getting a place a little bit further out. We're working with the Sunshine Clinic.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
And then we have our regular office hours that we operate the exchange. So some residents of the valley that can, they even drive into the office because we're always open in the office from 3 to 6, Monday through Friday.
Okay, Councilwoman Sarita Combs?
Sure. Venus, would it be safe to say that if you didn't receive the support of like Mat-Su Regional to use that space, that you'd be asking for the ability to use city space, such as like street parking, things of that nature.
I think that would be a great idea.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our reports. And, yeah, right, yeah.
I guess I'm first to say I don't have a written report tonight. Last week, I was at AML, Alaska Municipal League, and then prior to that, the Alaska Municipal Managers Association meetings. The first portion of that was new manager training or new manager orientation. I've been going to that for the last 3 years since they've started it. First year as a new guy, and then I'm now one of the senior guys and providing advice and mentorship as needed.
That's sad.
It is. The new first time city manager, teaching other city managers how to be a city manager. How's that going, Circle?
You speedily went through that, didn't you?
Yeah, the follow-on piece were a couple of sessions. Council manager relations was a test run, so the mayors did a test run with the mayors in the managers forum, and then they took it to the full AML the following day. And then there's a session on social media with the attorneys. We're in really good stead compared to a lot of our peer cities on how we handle social media and how we do backups. So kudos to the clerk for managing our Facebook and the way it's set up. It was set up much like the attorneys all had recommended, as opposed to how a lot of folks just think that it's a wild open west where you do what you want, where it's not the case with governmental sites. So that was the bulk of the time, and then the online sales tax commission, as you saw in the paper, I was given a lot of credit for doing a whole lot of nothing. So thanks, Mr. Rockney, for that one. And but we're well on our way. The next session for the commission group is to review a final draft of the sales tax code. Once the commission reviews that, it will go to the board, and the board will either approve or make additions, and then it will go back to the city councils that are part of that commission for adoption. And their goal is to have that to my hands, or guys like me, so I can bring it to our councils in January. They're lining up the software and all the intricacies that go behind it to be ready to go by early spring with a test run sometime late January. So that's kind of the timeline for the whole piece with online sales tax.
And we're a member of the board,
No, we're a member of the commission.
we're a member of the commission.
Our valley representative is Wasilla.
Okay.
Their finance director is
Troy.
kind of representing us both, because our sales tax codes are very similar, that we should be well represented on that board.
Okay. Questions, comments for the city manager regarding his report or anything else?
It's a 15-member commission with a 7-member board, so that's how it's narrowed down. But most, yeah, almost, the board bylaws, almost everything has to go to the commission before it goes to the board, so I'm not sure the stepping stone's there, but we'll get through it for the first couple of years.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments to the city manager? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As usual fashion, second meeting of the month, I don't normally have a written report. And at this time, what I'm doing is compiling what I learned from last week, and we'll report that at our first meeting in December 10th in a written form. So
Okay.
I don't have anything to add besides letting you know that that's coming forward.
Okay, good. Questions, comments to the city clerk? Okay. Oh,
Thank
well,
you.
I do have a written report.
You were.
Because I didn't go to AML. So I was able to do a written report. Anyway, I don't know, and Linda's generally always here, deputy mayor, to give me any additions that I don't have to my report, and she's not here tonight, so. Any questions on my report or anything? And, I just wanna say for the people in the audience that, we're, here to hear about your appointment to a board and commission you put in for. That was all covered under the consent agenda, so you are all approved now. So you're welcome to stay for the rest of the council meeting, but, we get too boring, you're welcome to leave, so you're set for life now, so, okay. And, we have Mike online, so does he have a report?
Madam Mayor, I too was at the AML and spent a few hours training the newly elected officials, which is always a good event, and there were good questions, and got an opportunity to share information with them. So I thought that was a good effort, and the attorneys meeting was very good. A lot of good topics were discussed. So that's my report, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Questions of the city attorney? Okay, all right, thanks, Mike. The next item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, what did you say? He said thank you, Madam Mayor. Oh, okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is new business. Action memorandum 19-087, directing the city clerk to notify the state of Alaska of the city council's statement of non-objections to a new winery liquor license application 5867 for Matanuska Brewing Company located at 513 South Valley Way. What is the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Questions, comments, amendments to the motion? Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Jill Valeris,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs,
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Best, Councilmember Julie Burbrick,
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is to go back into a committee of the whole. We had a special meeting earlier at 6 o'clock this evening where we had some presentation on our 2020 budget. And so now we will have some more presentations. What is the wishes of the council regarding the committee of the whole?
Move to go into committee of a whole, please.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we go into committee on the whole on the presentation of the 2020 budget. Questions, comments, amendments?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
before we go into committee of the whole, could you take 5 minutes?
Sure, yeah, we'll go ahead and, well, let's vote on the motion, sir, is that okay? Okay, Madam Clerk, you take the roll regarding yes or no vote on the
Not present.
motion.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Jill Valeris,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs, Councilmember Steve Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Burbrick,
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries,
Yes,
motion passes.
okay, and we're gonna recess for 5 minutes. And for those that are in the audience, there is copies of the budget over there that look like this, if you wanna follow along on page by page. So, anyway, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight, we have 2 departments left, and that's it for general fund and enterprise. Actually, that's it, except for any discussions about what we've talked about the last 6 weeks. So
Okay.
tonight, it's the city manager and then the mayor, council, clerk budget. We'll start on page 19, which is the city manager's part.
Okay.
Basically, no change other than a name change. HR is now Kimberly Green instead of Alice. And that you'll see reflected in our regular salaries when we get to that page. Looking at page 20, my responsibilities, basically that's cut and paste out of the city code on what I manage. So our biggest project that I'll be working on for the next, actually it's already started yesterday, is enhancing or changing our health insurance plan. Now, we talked earlier about the trust we're in, the Alaska Public Utility Insurance Trust was down to Seward and Palmer. Seward gave their official notification of withdrawal last week, so we are now, as effective January 1st, going to be the only one in the trust. As a result of that, the trust went back to Meritain, which is our actual health care provider, and that's where we expected to go up, but it actually went down. I have some suspicions on why that is, but I'll keep those to myself. But in the meantime, we let out an RFP, a request for proposals, for health care insurance or health insurance for the city. Yesterday, it closes December 19th at 2. We will open and review those proposals. It's for brokerage services. just to see what the different brokers have to offer, compare that to our current plan, and then I'll bring that to the council based on saving money. If it doesn't save us any money significantly, then I won't recommend we change. Our increases have been over the last few years right around 4%. The 8% was this year, didn't come to fruition, which is good. And I think there's some things in the work that might keep that steady. But again, it's still pretty hefty cost. If we can save $500,000, $250,000 to $500,000 in healthcare, then that would be something I'll pursue. If we're only going to save 60,000, it's in my estimation not worth the change because it is a Cadillac plan. But just the heartache that the employees would have to go through and change the insurance carriers for such a minuscule savings is not something that I would propose the council would change. So we'll see. Again, I'm looking for $250,000 to $500,000 or more. Prior this summer, we had someone come in just kind of kicking the tires to see what it's like, and their proposal was close to $750,000 in savings. However, there was a lot of admin pieces that would, when it was all said and done, it wouldn't be quite that much. So we'll see what the proposals have to offer. So that's the highlight for 2020. Of course, we'll continue to work on our wellness program. It's getting more participation each year, but I don't think we need to mark our budget quite as much. And then I'll continue marketing the city through local events and resources, and I'll talk about that when we get to the budget line. Page 21. The biggest decrease is in regular salaries. That's primarily due to the changeover in HR. And we talked about the cycle of people being here for a long time and they get to the top of the scale and they retire, and then we start back in and either the middle or the end. And that's what that reflects. So next year you can expect to see an increase, unless somebody in my department leaves, which is basically just 3 of us. There's not 4 of the airport's enterprise fund, so that's me, the admin assistant, and the HR manager. Benefits up, and that was due to health, but when we make the adjustments based on the new price quote, that'll go down. Next line, insurance, that's liability for the city manager's portion. We talked, that's across the board, every department's had that increase. Surprisingly, the vehicle insurance went down, but I think that's because they've got an older vehicle and it continues to age. The big cut is in wellness fund. We budgeted the first year I started this program. We budgeted $20,000. Didn't spend it all. $15,000. We're not going to spend that all either. So I think $10,000 is going to be a relatively good number to continue the program the way we are. We can look at. I've actually turned that program over to our new HR manager to manage, and she may come up with something for next year. But we'll continue to do the blood draw in January, with the follow-in draw in the summer, 6-month check, and then some incentive programs throughout the year.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Yes.
Nate, how much, do we actually see savings with the wellness program? What does that equate to when it comes down to health care costs long-term?
Long-term, we've identified some folks that have been at risk, so in my mind, that's a good thing. The other is awareness. Folks are now, really aware of their cholesterol and their high blood pressure and things like that. But for our insurance itself, it's gone up like everywhere else, but it hasn't gone up, in spikes. So I'd like to think that it's paying off. But the age of our workforce and a lot of the sedentary work that the workforce doesn't lend itself to.
So beyond awareness, are we seeing, or is anybody seeing behavioral changes? I mean, are there lifestyle changes that are happening? Is that part of this as well, or is it just oh, hey, your cholesterol is really high, you should probably do something about that?
The active portion of the wellness is, the answer is no. I'm not managing their active lifestyles. It's available. The program offers it. If you're identified as having high risk because you've answered questions on stress or smoking or sedentary activity, then there's programs available through this to do that. But there's nobody in an office actually tracking whether their lifestyle changes are happening or not. But our program is focused on seasonally. The first 2 years, this last year we tried something a little different, where we just open up the menu to all the challenges, So you could participate in 1 or 50 or none. Whereas the years past had it focused on in the winter, getting out and about, in the summer, physical activity, in the fall, your meal preparation, eat the colors, so that we targeted something each year. I guess the first quarter was weight management, and then it was physical activity. So we'll probably go back more to a more focused challenges or activities. But again, to get to your original question, we're not. There's nobody going around checking each individual to make sure that they're participating in that sense, other than we got an awareness, and you've got an awareness on what your body is doing.
Do the folks that run the program, I mean, I wonder if they must, you'd think they'd be tracking something, because otherwise somebody, like, how do you sell your program? Well, we don't ever do anything for you, but if you pay us $10,000, we'll make sure your employees are aware that their cholesterol is really high. Like, you'd think that they may have some sort of tracking.
So the 10,000 isn't a lump sum. That's for the incentives. So but they do have, again, we get a report semi-annually on the health of our workforce, and that's what's valuable to me. We compare that also with our workman's comp numbers to see how that looks. Our workman's comp numbers have come down quite a bit. I'd like to think that that's because partly to this, that our workforce is more active and healthy. The other side is, we've got a better safety focus than we've had. So guys are more aware of, don't climb a ladder without checking your surroundings, things like that. So the 10,000, half of that is for incentives, and that's what we haven't really spent. So I don't suspect we'll spend all the 10,000 again next year. But again, it's more awareness. The health or the wellness program we had before was you could do it all at your desk. There was no assessment whatsoever. It was just, let's just start a wellness program because everybody else is doing it on. And you get if you do these 5 things, you get $25 in your paycheck. Okay, you could sit at your desk and do everything, and the rest of the year you get $25. So part of the incentive is if you take the assessment and you have your blood drawn, then you get $25 for 6 months. Ideally, that was to go towards the insurance increase we had last year. For their out of pocket, we raised their health insurance for out of pocket for a portion of it. And then, you recertify, you have your blood drawn again the second 6 months, and you can revalidate your $25 towards your insurance for the second half of the year. And again, for me and for the council, here's the health of your workforce. And there are folks that, again, it hasn't been my focus to, is anybody improving? I look at the overall numbers and, they look like we're doing better. Maybe we're reporting better. But the other piece is I don't know that we want to, I don't have the time or the staff to, check individuals to see how well they're doing, other than, these 5 people are participating in all the challenges every quarter, and these 5 people have done it twice a year, and these 10 people aren't doing anything. Okay, who are those 10 people? Well, I know that one goes out and hikes all the time, so I'm not really concerned. But that's just, again, anecdotally, something I look at now and then, but not tracking to see, are we getting our bang for our buck? To me, the blood draw is the biggest piece for individual awareness of your own body, what's going on, and to get help when you need it.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead, sir.
And then the one piece that doesn't really show up is a discretionary fund. It shows no change, but y'all took 5,000 from me this year. It was 10,000. We did a budget amendment, and that went to AML. But I've never spent it, so we'll just leave it at 5, unless y'all want to put another $5,000 in there for some reason. But that was a slush fund I've never tapped into to any degree. It was good to have when we decided to participate with AML in the sales tax study, so that was good for that. The $5,000 increase in computer services, that's for a couple of things. It's for web maintenance, make sure that our backside is up to date, and also for some additional equipment for our antivirus. So when we did our IT contract, it didn't include antivirus. So we've been paying that out of this, but to make sure we capture that as part of our IT services, that's what that is. And then marketing, I know I touched on a little bit with the visitor center. We talked about the visitor center. We programmed an increase in their budget, or in their contract by 5,000. The year before, we gave them $5,000 to go towards distribution of the visitor's guide on top of their contract. This year, we didn't do that as part of their contract, but my proposal is to absorb that in my marketing budget. We're spending money on print marketing that I don't think is getting us anything. So I'll redirect that, it's about $6,000. So I'll redirect that to the visitor guide, which is not, again, print, but provide funding to the visitor guide directly, as opposed to spending money on other print resources. Part of that 15,000 also goes to sponsoring chamber events. We sponsor Colony Days, Colony Christmas, the golf tournament, the chamber auction, and then our membership to the chamber, and then the Scottish Games we sponsor every year, the minors we sponsor every year, and then and the minors. Did I say the minors twice? Okay, so those are the three big events. All the colonies, the Scottish Games, and the minors, we're elite sponsors for all three of those, and I'll continue to do that. And then we have the other things that slip in there for, like the high school sports. We don't do the calendar anymore because I don't think the boosters were receiving as much of that money as they should have been. So I don't do the advertising on the calendar, but if a booster comes in, I'll sponsor it directly. So they get more money that way in my mind than, we send it to California. Our logo gets printed on the calendar and boosters see $100 of the 500. So I will continue to sponsor our sports programs that way. And that comes through marketing.
And is this where you did the video out of?
No, that was community development. We had it under community planning. So
Okay.
part of our distribution of that video will come out of here. We are going to have USB drives that say Invest Palmer on them. So we'll have 50 of those that are available.
Yeah,
in
Senator
addition
Hughes
to.
wants one of those. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, and I think that would, be something good probably to give to our Representative Johnson also, and they could have it in their office, both here and in Juneau. I think that would be some good, as well as, maybe even the Fed's representatives to pass it around and stuff. So, anyway, and you do have enough for doing another one?
I don't know. We've talked to Brilliant. Well, I don't know if we actually talked to Brilliant Media Strategies. We've talked to the representative unofficially that we want to do a couple of short ones. They're more Visit Palmer focused or Gateway, or I think we need to come up with a different term besides Gateway, because Mat-Su Visitor Bureau uses Gateway in their logo or their discussion. Wasilla uses Crossroads, so I think we come up with some catchphrase that's similar to that. But what I want to do is start out on the Glen. The very first shot is the sign that says Palmer this way, and then something down the Glen Highway to show there's a wide corridor, and then hang a left and you're in Ski Talk. We need to capture Ski Talk as Palmer as opposed to Wasilla or the Mat-Su. That needs to be Palmer. So I think we have some short video. Anything more than about 90 seconds is too much, but I think that needs to be our next one. And then follow on after that is to partner with the Visitor Center and Chamber on their Visit Palmer ideas. Either support them with the video or, again, take it on ourselves and let them distribute it.
And do we have money either here or in community development to do those?
No, not directly. There is some community planning money there, and then my discretionary fund. We just don't know how much it is. If the council's not opposed to that, I'll make some of that magic happen, and then if we need more money, I'll come to the council. If it's more than 15,000, then we'll come and ask for another appropriation or something along those lines.
Okay, so will we need an amendment to
It'll probably be mid-year anyway. We can, if it's
do
more
it
than.
mid-year? Okay. I'm sorry.
No, I would like to voice my support for that we rearrange. I think that doing those videos is really important. People are marketing visually now, and video is really where it's at. So making sure we have enough money for those would be great.
Yeah, our drawback right now is there's nothing to ski slope. There's no chairs. And I really don't want to wait until next winter to start filming, so we'll have to be some creative on how we capture
Right.
getting up there.
Am I mistaken that they're not still aiming for February for their?
I hadn't heard.
Yeah, February is when they're. So we can get you on the slopes in February and we'll record it.
I can't even eat without making a mess. You wanna see my skis?
Brad will join you.
So I think we strike early, we can capture the idea that this is how you get up there as opposed to going to the trunk road and getting across. It'd be nice if Fishhook was wide all the way up, that we can just do this one big, here's how you get there. And oh, by the way, swing into Fred Meyer's, swing into Turkey Red, and
Yeah, and with that new Valley store on the corner
bypass that.
of
Just bypass that
Palmer,
altogether.
Palmer Fishhook and Trunk, you know, is gonna take some of the people from coming down into Palmer, you know, so that is certainly gonna be a different, and also, do we have plans for the video to be on Facebook, Facebook?
No, but our webpage, Facebook is too big. I guess we could put a smaller version on it, but it's Invest Palmer, so it's really not Visit Palmer. So it's a different audience we're trying to track as opposed to.
Yeah, but people that are thinking about
Oh, I know.
investing in Palmer go to Facebook. I
Yep.
mean, everybody goes to Facebook.
Yep.
I mean, even if you had to divide it into 2 or 3 small
Yeah.
bites, I think it's worthwhile putting it on there. I don't know what the rest of the council feels, but, you know. Go ahead.
You could just put it on YouTube and then link to it. If you need help with that, just let me.
So that was interesting discussion that we had at the attorney manager's social media piece was almost everybody is staying away from YouTube because you can't control the videos that come before or after you, and there's huge potential, and I think it was Soldaten or Soldovia that their video was stuck between 2 inappropriate videos.
I'm sorry, yes, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Thank you for addressing that about YouTube, because of course my records management and clerk's like, "Bleh." No YouTube. There's a lot of caution about YouTube and using that as, as linking things to there. But I do understand exactly what you're saying about our Facebook page has grown a lot in the
Yeah.
last couple of years. And I do think that there is some importance in putting it out there. But the video right now, as it stands for how Facebook works, is a little long. So Nate and I will work together on what we can do, maybe doing a link like Councilor or Councilmember Combs had suggested, something to link once it gets on our website or whatnot. But just to put only that video on there, we'll lose interest. People won't stay long enough to watch things. There's algorithms, things like that. But we'll work together to make it get that video out. Make that.
Councilwoman?
Madam Mayor?
Oh, Councilman.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Carrington, go ahead.
Since we're dropping names of actual places, another option is, that actually costs a little bit of money is Vimeo, and they let you do things without advertisement, et cetera. So, there's other options in there other than, YouTube with all its controversy.
And you have an idea of a figure for that, sir? Are we talking about a few thousand or more, or what? Do you know?
Programming, I pay like $165 a year, I think.
Okay, so not a lot then, okay,
No.
okay, thank you. Councilwoman?
Sure.
Councilwoman Melendez, do you still have a comment?
I was gonna mention the same thing.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's right now. That's how we exchange with Brilliant Media Strategies is through Vimeo. So it's on Vimeo. It's just a closed site right now because it's ready for release. It's just we haven't pulled that trigger. So it may be part of that package that it can stay there and we can link to that.
Okay.
That is another option.
Good.
It's just there's no comment. We'll have the commenting turned off if that's an option on Vimeo, but we won't have any comments for it.
Okay, good. Anything further on the, city manager's budget? Okay, all right, go ahead,
So
sir.
I'll be followed by the clerk, and then after the clerk, that's it for the budget, and the next session would be December 3rd, so bring your amendments, and we can get those knocked out at the end of that meeting.
Okay, and maybe after the clerks, we could have, I have several items that I would like to throw out there that regarding, some comments or feelings from the rest of the council, so I don't know if other people have those tonight or not, but maybe we could spend a little bit of time, 5 or 10 minutes, just tossing some things out, and then we can sort of discuss some stuff, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, please forgive me as I am really cold. So if I have to catch my breath or you hear my voice funny ways, I'm like shivering cold tonight. What's being handed out to you is the usual annual budget stats and Radio Free Palmer report that we hand out every year. And so I just wanted to make sure that you had those in your hand and that you were able to see the report that Radio Free Palmer provided as to what our services or what our payment to them provides. So that you have that. For the council clerk budget, we have myself as a clerk, you know Kara, our deputy clerk, and tonight I see that we got the admin assistant here, Taylor Perkins. So I know some of you have seen her emails. Now, for those that haven't had a chance to meet her, you get to see what she looks like. So that's the organization of the city clerk's office. The next page, the highlights for 2020, most of those remain the same of what we're trying to achieve and accomplish. 2020, we really want to get focused on our records. And up to this point, we have been maintaining a records destruction and inputting and archiving the boxes that are coming our way, but we have not, and I don't foresee us being able to in current status as part-time for a deputy, as getting to actually conquering the behind that we are in our records downstairs. We are behind. There are a number of boxes that aren't accounted for. There are a number of boxes that need to be indexed, reorganized. And we're finding it more and more as we're getting more and more records requests, as you can see here, that has increased. We're at this point at 128 just as of November. So the more and more records requests we get, the more time that we're spending on hunting for these records because they aren't properly indexed. There are things in boxes that we literally have to open them up because, we find things in places that we're like, oh, that should have been in box number 15, and we found it in box 1 because there was obscure language possibly in our simple program indexing program that we thought, let's just go to box 1. It's pretty tough, and that's not only using up the staff time by not having our records properly indexed and organized as it is, but it is also a liability. We don't have the records. We tell people that we don't, if we have them and we're saying we can't find them, we are liable for not releasing those records and not having that proper records destruction and records management program. That is legal liability. So it is becoming concerning. As I presented to this council of previous years, is that it's been something that I want to tackle and get to, and and the deputy's on board for it, but now it's getting to a level of concern. So that second bullet is definitely priority for this office. And then the fourth bullet got added this year, and that was the Support the Sister City Exchange program to Soroma. The Soroma program is budgeted underneath the council clerk's budget, but the manager has taken on a strong role in helping provide service to the Palmer Soroma Kai and to Soroma Japan. That baton has been passed as is properly in this budget. Yeah, it was thrown, it was chucked at me. It's yours, Clark. So that responsibility is exchanged over to our office. So as we navigate, what that looks like for 2020, that bullet point is added on there as responsibility. So going to page 37, the changes and highlights of the council clerk budget is there is an increase here. As you can see, it was per my evaluation this year. And as discussed, the deputy numbers are in here to be full-time, so that's what that increase is. I do want to highlight that the reason that there is a decrease in the part-time salaries is because that position is being moved from the part-time line to the full-time line. So that 33 is just a shift up. Then we have 2,000, after looking at our advertising and what we're doing, I felt that we could cut 2,000 out of the advertising budget and bring that down to 8,000. We are, spending around that, and I anticipate that next year we would probably have that same number. So making the budget more actual to expenditure. Again, legal fees, same thing, cutting that by 10,000 so that it kind of matches and mirrors more actual. I know you guys could see, we had 44 in 2016, 17 had roughly 30,000, and 18 we had 20,000. But the reason that I'm asking the council to approve the 30,000 is because I anticipate a lot of collaboration with the city attorney on election code amendments. And so that's why I'm asking, could we cut some more? Yes. I think that if that's the council's wish, we could in that line. But I did reserve an extra 5 in there for code amendments for election if that happens.
Can you tell us, cause in the 2019 amended, it says 40,000. So do you know where you are regarding, have you spent all that 40,000 in 2019?
No, I haven't, no.
Do you know what the figure is?
We're close to the 20, I think we're at 26, 22, 26 right now.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. We're in the 20s. So the amended, we did not make any amendments to our budget this year. So that amended language is because we've had a couple of budget amendments, but nothing has changed from what was adopted
Right.
last year.
Yeah, I understand that,
oh,
but I
okay.
didn't know what the actual was, that's.
The actual right
that's
now
the
is somewhere in the 20,000s, I believe.
Okay,
That's why I was thinking it's pretty safe to go to the 30.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I do want to point out, I'm sorry I missed that there's an increase of $700 in training travel, and that's to balance it out. And looking at the expenditure, the deputy does attend the AAC, the Clerks Association Conference. So looking at what that increased registration cost has been this last year, we did have that impact this year, and they announced at our conference that there likely would be another increase, that would cover the already approved increase and the additional increase anticipated as of February. So that's what the 700 is for. Insurance, that's the number I was told to put in. That's why. The operating supplies, that 2,000 is the directive from the council to cut the meals. And then the community council grants, as the city manager had noted early on in budget presentation back in October, that after discussion of all of the grant applications received, that big, large one, we had the 5,000 for the YAC, that minus that special grant, we probably could go back to 10,000. But again, that was put in there. It's council's choice to do it. What to do with that was just taken out based on his and my discussions and trying to get this prepped.
And where are we with the last ones, the last 2 we just did?
We're at $900 remaining.
Yeah.
And that's out of the 15?
15.
Yeah.
So we gave,
Okay.
so if you subtract the YAC 5,000,
We've
We would
yeah,
just-
9,100.
Yeah,
10,000.
large from somebody else.
Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
then, okay, all right,
Yeah, it's an excellent point. That leaving it in there does allow for another.
yeah. for some-
Opportunity.
Yeah, somebody else to come, but anyway,
Yeah.
okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Then a decrease in 600 in the Blackboard Connect service. I decreased that by 600 because that really meets a little bit closer to our actual of what is occurring with the Blackboard. That was an effort that I definitely, our office really worked hard on getting our numbers correct and accurate back in 17. And so after seeing a couple of years, because they had said they were going to increase fees, but after that hard work of cleaning up our phone list, it's safe to take out $600 and meet that. We could probably bump it down to 5,000, but if we exceed our contract call amounts, things like that, we get some charge. And so that 1,000 gives us a safe with buffer without going over. But I would say that we could probably take it down to 5. But that's a council. I didn't touch this other than the 600 because this is something that the council brought on as a directive. The council said that this is a priority to have that blackboard collar. So I'm looking to you on how you'd like to move forward with that. I do want to note that. Do you want to ask after? Okay.
Go ahead. I forgot, Mayor. I just thought maybe you should let people know what that is.
Yes, okay. So Blackboard is our phone calling system. That's what it was started as. And so people in our community, doesn't have to just be Palmer residents, but anyone in the community can sign up, give us their phone number into the system, and then if there's any information that we want to get out to them, we send out a call. We use this primarily during the winter time, and that's by Public Works. They are our dominant user, and they use it to notify if we're not picking up trash because it's too windy. They notify us if, snow plowing is needed in a certain area. They use it a lot during that period of time. So because of that, as you see, it's not in the budget stats because we haven't really utilized it to date for 2019. So that's kind of where I'm going back and forth. I believe, and the city manager and I have had the conversation, that it is an important tool, but we really haven't been utilizing it. I'm cautious about switching to another service. So the other service that's really utilized is Nixle, and that's done by other entities here. Houston uses Nixle, Wasilla, the borough, and Anchorage. But they are using it only for emergency, or not Anchorage, I'm talking about the valley, is using it only in emergency purposes. We use Blackboard as an informative purpose. So I'm cautious about switching to something like Nixle where we would be using it more as our info out, and then we are overusing the system. And that's the feedback that when we had the earthquake back in November, oh my goodness, it's almost here. So last year in 18, that was some of the feedback that us PIOs shared amongst one another, was that when that was being used, people were having a hard time because everyone was pushing everything out in Nixle. And the feedback I received personally about Palmer was, we liked that Facebook was used, we want it used more because Nixle, we were getting drowned with that use. So I like the conversation that Nate and I had, was to keep Blackboard, continue to utilize it, do a training, because right now every admin assistant in the city has access to it to utilize. So every department has an opportunity to call out and use it, but doing a training with everyone so that it kind of refreshes everybody. So.
I'm sure that we've talked about this before, but I can't remember. Does Blackboard support texting notifications?
Oh yeah. So the great features about Blackboard is what they've expanded since we've gone in is that they do support texting. They do phone, texting, and email. And we can isolate our location as well. So we only want to do a few blocks. We want to do every single person. So they do support all 3 and advanced features.
Is there plans to start doing that?
Yeah.
By all the public works things, I noticed while we were in this council meeting, I have a missed call from Blackboard, but so I'm just wondering if the texting, and that might be a question for Public Works, I'm not sure, but if that's gonna start happening.
Yes, you will start to see a lot more from Public Works. As I said, they utilize it more in the winter, and there's getting ready for the plowing. So, and that'll be part of that training, is to help highlight, these are your features, and texting really is a way that people like. And I have to say, I was amiss in using Blackboard during the election. When preparing the budget, I was like, oh yeah, I need to get Blackboard, and I had it on my list of something to do, but I didn't get it into my total to-do list. And that's something that we can use Blackboard for, is sending out that call, don't forget to vote today, so we can utilize it more.
Councilwoman Valeris, go ahead.
How do we inform the public? I've never heard of Blackboard until right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the phone number?
That's,
You know,
it's not a phone number, it's an online registration or
Okay.
calling the clerk's office to get signed up. And that is part of that issue of why getting that word out. That's going to be a
Yeah.
campaigning effort. And we're talking staffing to do that. That's very hard.
Agreed.
But it needs to be done. It does, I agree. I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So the clerk and I have discussed this since we both started here on how to make this thing work better. And Blackboard's come a long ways in the last 3 years. But the other piece is, when we first started, we opened up the public, and the public didn't understand what they were signing up for, so they signed up multiple times, multiple ways. And when the clerk talked about spending all that time cleaning up Blackboard, that was, okay, how many times are you in this system? And then verifying, I mean, picking up the phone saying, hey, do you still wanna be in here? So it's labor intensive, both on the part of the user and the system administrators, so it's gonna take a concerted effort, to clean it up. And basically what my recommendation to the clerk was, let's just start from scratch and do the database, and then do a campaign where, maybe you don't sign up, and this is where the manpower comes in, maybe we don't have them sign themselves up, they send something to the clerk by email or drop a form off, and then we can input it, so we know it's in the right place, and we know that they're getting the notifications, but again, it all comes down to manpower, and how we manage that to make sure it's accurate, cause what happens, you got a phone call instead of a text, because when you signed up way back when, that was all we had was phones. So it's Blackboard's come a long way because their competitors have done things. Blackboard was the first. It was used by DoD way back when. So you can imagine how the technology might look. It's a good tool. I mean, I wanted to go to Nixle, but Fairbanks got me away from that. Basically, if there's something happens, DOT sends you a message, the fire department sends you a message, the city sends you a message, the borough sends you a message. The police department sends you a message, and they're all about the same thing, so you get 5 messages about one event from Nixle, and it's based on what you sign up for, because you want the fire department messages, you want this, you want that, but there's no central management, and we'd run into the same thing out here, so I'm convinced Nixle is not the way to go for us. The fire department has a system, the borough has another alert system, our dispatch will have an alert system, but when it comes down to it, I think Blackboard, for the city, for city use, for admin, and then we can use it for emergencies, but we really want it for snow clearing. Don't put your garbage out, vote. There's a council meeting, special council meeting on the budget, there's a special meeting on the airport. So, I wanted to kill this 2 years ago, but now I think we just need to spend some time to make it work. And it's gonna come down to, the admin assistants in each department, understanding how it works, and then a campaign to the public, if you wanna be notified. Facebook is great now because we can post on Facebook and say, go here to sign up. Where in the past, it was, put on our webpage and it was hit and miss on whether somebody saw it. So the tools are better now. It's just a matter of, is it a priority within the departments? Is it a priority for the clerk? And the clerk still manages all this, so that's kind of where we are with Blackboard.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten a call on Blackboard, whether our number's been dropped or not, but I haven't gotten a call, I bet you, probably close to 9 months, maybe even more. Has anybody gotten a call, say even, I don't even know if I've had one within this last year.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Sabrina Combs?
Yeah, like I said, my phone rang just while we were sitting here, and that's what it was. But I hadn't seen one in quite some time.
That would be correct.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
no microphone. That would be correct, Mayor, that you haven't seen one in a long time because we didn't utilize it over the summer. We didn't have that push out. Like I said, Public Works really is our dominant user.
Right.
And it is about snow plowing, the high winds, things like that. So we haven't used it in a while. You aren't missing from the system. You're in the system. All council members are in the system. I verify that every October because I add you. I add new members and I verify all the council members current. But you're right, we haven't. And it is something that Nate and I have had conversation about of better utilizing and doing some training for staff to help make it a better program.
Which might also not be on that list for a particular call out.
Well, that's right, true.
Cause it doesn't call everybody in Blackboard.
That's right.
Yeah, cause we don't have garbage service now, so
Yes.
then we shouldn't get that call.
But it depends
Right.
on how it's updated.
Right.
Councilwoman
I would be surprised if this Blackboard system didn't have, if they've made all these upgrades before you completely kind of reset the system, if you will, you might check with them, because most like simple mail servers, MailChimp and Active Campaign, all those kind of things, they actually check for dual entries and all of that stuff. So that would be a question to ask of them. Like, you may not need to do that, and usually the technology's there that it'll wipe out duplicates, so you might not have to reinvent the wheel.
Councilwoman Burger? Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the $6,000 cost for it, is that just a base rate, or if you got more people on it, would our rate increase? So if we put it out there on Facebook, hey, join Blackboard, would we be looking at a higher fee?
For me,
Yeah.
we would be looking at a higher fee. They do have a base rate, and then they have a per user in additional surcharge. And right now, where we stand, this meets what our minimums are right now. We have some wiggle room, but if we do a campaign push, we will see an increase in charge. I don't have those numbers with me right now, but I think it'd be safe to keep it at 6 though.
Councilman Carrington, do you have any input?
Okay. And I have one more
What
line
did he
item to
say?
address.
I think he said no.
It sounded like he got sort of cut off. Councilwoman Sabrina Combs?
Thank you. I just think it's counterintuitive to budget for the minimum if we're gonna also work on getting more people on it. So I think we should look at how much it would cost, to, if we did do a push, just maybe some levels, if we add 5,000 users, if we add 2,500 users, I'd like to see those numbers. If we want this to work, we need to get people using it. So any bit of, if you put one Facebook post out about this, you would probably jump your users by several hundred at least instantly. So I think we need to be looking at that and make sure that we're budgeting for it correctly, because we can't do both. We can't say that we're going to use it more and then not pay more for it. So I'd like to see those numbers. Thank you.
Councilman Betts?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I agree, I think we need to see the data behind it. How are we using it, how many users we have, those cost numbers, and then we'll make the decision as a body whether or not we'll keep it or add to it and augment the expense a little bit.
Yeah, and the option regarding duplicates, I mean, every service you have has that thing. I mean, you'll get a pop-up saying, you wanna merge these, right? Yeah, so. Okay, so go ahead, you have a few more items, I
I
think.
do. For summary of Blackboard, what I have here in my notes is to check into their system, being able to, what automated effort they have within their system to help eliminate any dual entries. And then Councilmember Combs had said is that looking at what the budget levels are, and Councilmember Best in also our use levels. That those are the 3 stats that you would like returned back. Is that correct? Okay. And so I have those notes, I'll do that.
Sorry.
Councilwoman Burke, go
Thank you,
ahead.
Madam Mayor. And also, can you look into the text messaging, because I really think that would be a lot more effective than phone calls.
Look into
To having the messages go out via text message.
It's just a checkbox per phone. So when you sign up, you say, I want phone calls, text messages, and emails. So just to make sure that people have that text checkbox checked. And that we utilize, that when we send out a message, that we say, send it in these manners. So there's a 2-pointed effort there. And so, yes, I just want to explain that I will add it to my list, that when we do training with staff, that we let them know that there's a multi-level need for text message there. Is that, am I capturing what you're requesting?
Yes, but also as the city manager said, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
When you first started utilizing it, maybe text messaging wasn't something that people use as much as they do now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we might need to ask people again, because I believe people prefer text messages at this day and age.
Okay, so what you're really asking is, you wanna make sure that the database, that we do have text messages checked.
Yes.
Okay,
And you are sure that they do offer that service?
yes, oh yeah, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, that was part of when I have phone call training with them, with the upgrades, when they did that. That was one of those things they walked through and said, oh, as an administrator, this is that, so yeah, oh, yeah, they definitely have that.
Okay, right, cause I think the number I have in there is my landline, so.
That, yes, and I think that's some of the issue is I presented last year with the budget numbers, the budget stats, was we did talk about Blackboard and how when we were getting calls, we were losing, because when you get a call, you can say, I want to be removed from this list. And that was one of those follow-ups that I remember from last year, was we were actually getting quite a high number of removes from the list. And I think it plays into that text message versus a phone call. And the issue that I remember Blackboard talking about was identifying that landline versus the cell phone. That's something that I'll add to the list, is what have they done over the last year to help streamline that, if that makes sense. I think I know what you're trying to ask for, and then I'll work with them to see what we can do to get our list fresh. Okay.
Further discussion before the clerk goes on? Okay.
So, okay, hold on.
I think we just want all the information you know about the whole thing.
I know, I'm like, I'm gonna just dump on you. So then the last
15-page
item,
report.
what's that?
15-page
I
report.
know, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm like, are you gonna be asking me to write a 15-page report? I don't know. I'm just gonna have them come and present. So the last item that had change was the Sister City program.
Let's move back up
Oh,
to,
we're moving up.
I do personally want to talk about the election expenses.
Oh, yes.
Because I know in the past we had talked about, sending out a postcard, now maybe we can use Blackboard, or something. And I know we are, and maybe it's not appropriate to change this figure at this time, cause we're gonna have the whole election thing in January. But, where are you in 2019? Are you at 10,000 for the election expenses? See, I told you, I need those numbers. Yeah.
Oh,
To
we are
me,
close
it's
to
so hard to do
$15,000.
a budget for next year when you don't know what your actuals are for this year. Well, you have the
No,
amended budget
yeah.
there and you don't.
Right?
Yeah,
I think
so-
that when you brought that up a
Yeah.
couple meetings ago, I knew where you were going. I agree. It's so true. I don't have that number on me right now,
Okay.
and we're still processing election invoices at this point.
Okay.
But I am over 10,000. I'm close to 15,000 right now. I don't anticipate that every year will be at 15, because there were some large equipment purchases that had to be purchased because we no longer could be using them, borrowing them. But some of the issue with that is, while we don't have to purchase those, we will need to be purchasing the items that will belong to the city that go with the new election equipment. So the new AccuVote machines, we have to buy the cards, that's what programs for the ballots. We have to buy, did all of you get an opportunity to see the new equipment at AML? Yeah, okay, great. So this new equipment with advanced technology over what was there 20 years ago requires additional parts. And it's because it's heightened security on the equipment itself. So I have to buy brand new memory cards, which is what we actually use to program the machines, and that is a City of Palmer, cannot be shared with anyone else. That's security. They have now a security lock button that has a specific code to it. That has to be purchased. We don't have actual hard keys anymore like we used to, because the hard keys can be duplicated, right? So I will have some of those costs. I don't have a quote right now for what that is, but that's why I say it's a little bit of what I spent to get some of that equipment. I won't have to buy that again, but I do have some other things I have to purchase. Really what stung, Madam Mayor, was the election officials. That was expensive. And that was hard to anticipate, because It had to do with, I knew what the borough was spending. They paid for our election officials quite a bit. And I was thinking, yes, we're gonna save money because we didn't do the DOE. So we didn't have to pay 6 days, 9-hour, 10-hour days over there. But the election officials for early voting is really expensive. It basically, election officials cost over $5,000.
Sure.
Alone.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 weeks of 2 people, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and the early voting was the bulk of the expense, not the
sure.
poll day. And we
Right.
have to pay review boards, so the borough paid for all of that. They paid 100% of our early voting in the past. They paid for our review board, at least from what I could find in the records. I paid 50, well, we, when I say I, and that's just me saying because I wrote the check, or I didn't write the check, but I did the check payment, that we paid 50% of the election official poll day. Well, we had to pay all of that this year, so that is a large portion of why this is going over budget. We did do a little bit more advertising in the Frontiersman this year, so there was some increased cost of that.
Councilwoman Sabrina Combs?
So do you anticipate the 10,000 is enough for covering this year, for 2020? Then why?
I don't want to answer that question again. Because the reason that I kept it at $10,000 is because I don't know what we will be doing with the election next year, as the discussion will be in January amongst the council.
Okay.
As it was said last year when we talked about the budget, that leave the budget at 10,000, we will address what the overage is, and if we have to pull it from reserves, or if there's another line item we can draw from and do a line item transfer. So I took that same recommendation that the council gave.
Okay.
It was right
That
here,
sounds
actually.
Thank you.
And followed that through for 2020.
But haven't we already missed the window from changing it? Pardon?
No, she
Are you talking about
means
changing the
for
election
the,
day?
About the
yes,
date of the election.
right.
And so that means that we're gonna have all this early voting and all of this stuff.
Correct.
This additional $5,000 that you're talking about, which is not reflected here in your
Right.
2020 budget.
That's right. So you're right. As to us holding an election in October, that remains the same.
Right.
So you brought up a good point as well, is what about those additional expenses or those additional ideas to get the word out about the election that we didn't do this year? Like sending a postcard, we didn't
Right.
do that. And, that's some of the other things, buying a banner. We talked about when I had presented on the 7th and 8th, talked about having a banner and putting it at the corner of Colony Way, Alaska, and Evergreen. What is that expense? Those are expenses that we didn't pay for, that we could have. The reason, I follow what you're saying, let's properly budget. I love that I agree with you. If we anticipate it's going to be $15,000, then why don't we put in $15,000? Like I said, last year when I had said I anticipate about 12 to 15, it was directive of why don't you leave it at 10 and then see what it ends up being, and if there's some other area that we can pull that from. I believe in taking, things away. I'm cautious of that because we're taking $2,000, $10,000, $2,000, $5,000, $600 from the other lines. We know now that we've
But your
been through
budget's-
an election.
But your budget's gonna be 66,000 already
Mm-hmm.
over what it was last year.
Correct.
And that's a major concern as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned.
And so having that, now that we've been through an October election by ourselves, we know that it's, roughly 12 to 15,000. So that line item, what do we do with that?
Yeah.
And we do have, the last item on here is that 6,000 increase for the Sister City program, which covers the council's travel to Japan. So
And is the 6,000, what is that budget, how many does that budget for?
the 3 council members.
Okay, so, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions in the clerk's budget? Okay, all right. Councilman Carrington, do you have any comment?
Other than, I will be curious if whatever crash comes for this year, maybe.
You're cutting up, I don't think anybody I see all puzzled looks around. Can you restate your statement, please?
I'd be curious actual for this year for election service, what we have.
He's stating that he's be curious to see the actual numbers for the elections this year.
Yeah,
I'll add that to my list.
Okay.
Like I said, we're still processing
right.
items, and so.
But you should have a pretty good idea.
I have a
mean,
pretty
you-
good idea. I
You
can't give
must
the
have
absolute, but I have a
approved
pretty
the
good idea.
expenses at some point, so you
Mhm.
should have a pretty good idea of what they're
Yeah,
gonna
there
be.
are, the big items are all processed.
Okay.
There are some other ones coming in, like I don't have the last frontiersman. And I expect one ad to be in that from the election. Well, that's a couple $100, you know, but the large stuff is all processed, yes.
Okay.
So I will add
And
that
all
to
the
the list.
wages have been paid?
Huh?
All the wages have been paid?
All the wages have been paid, all of the, like I said, the programming of our
supplies and all of
cards,
that
all
stuff.
that,
Yeah.
all that is done.
Yeah, equipment, okay. Anything further on the clerk's budget? Okay, all right, thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome,
That's
thank you
it
very much, Madam
For
Mayor.
this evening, okay, so,
I'll make a motion to,
I don't care, we can do it in the committee of the whole, or I can do it, whatever, okay. Alrighty, I'll start down my list, or somebody else wants to start down, do they have a list, or no? No, okay, so, some of these things, I think the one big thing is the annexation, we heard about that tonight, that's, at least get started on that. I'm gonna continue to press for the credit card payments, there's got to be a solution for that, and it's got to be a priority as far as I'm concerned. And also the website, I know you said, you know, people don't like change, and that's true. But when I was interviewing for the boards and commissions, some of the people had a rough time even finding the applications on there and that kind of thing. So we need some money as far as I'm concerned for changing that website. I think probably the discretionary funds a little bit more, the videos, of course, putting that money in there someplace. And we talked about the blackboard and the election, street humps, for, I don't know about the rest of you, but get complaints from residents all the time regarding certain streets that people are not, and the ones I know that we put on Felton, you didn't need to hardly even slow down for those, and you know that. Yeah. You know, I mean, even over at Job Corps, we have ones that are probably twice that high in the parking lot, you know? So, people just don't, you know, slow down for it, and so I think we need to look at that, and I think in one of your reports, you said that you thought there was something we could do that is not gonna put a problem for the street graders, road graders and stuff, so, okay, and Councilwoman Burbrick, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It sounds like you guys have discussed that maybe, and you've identified some places that you're thinking about these speed humps, and maybe you can let us know where what roads you're talking about.
Mine, personally, South Galcana,
Okay.
Evergreen going towards the airport, Felton, North Alaska Street, go ahead, you can add, you know, you'll get them.
Every street in Palmer. South Chugach is another one just past the school. Again, my sense is that once the highway is back open, some of these will go back to normal speeds. But there are some, like Alaska Street's a collector. It's Felton Street,
Eagle.
And Chugach, and then Eagle downhill. Some of those are, and they're natural. You're going downhill Eagle, and that's a natural speed to speed up. So it's speed tables is what they're called. It's a hump, but it's a long hump. So you go up on it, you get all four wheels, and you go down it. But they're okay for fire trucks and road graders, because if we put something out there, we got to keep in mind that, you know, there's other services on those roads that need to go faster than the speed limit, so. So I would say program for 4, if that's the direction we wanna go, and then we can adjust from there, and then identify through our, road counts on where the biggest problems are.
Okay. And in your, remind me again, in your budget, did you have those lighted, speed signs?
We're purchasing those this year, for
And
this
you,
year's
and
budget.
you do have that money
Yes.
already? Okay, good.
We were, that
Okay,
inject from the borough, for road projects will
Okay.
cover most of that.
good, great, thank you. Councilman Best?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. During this last campaign season, walking around knocking on doors, some of the neighborhoods that do have the seasonal speed humps, it was surprising to actually hear some of the residents complaining about having them there. So, the folks that have, homes that are on them appreciate them to cause folks to slow down. And you got some, and it wasn't necessarily a particular demographic of individuals that were talking about this either. There was, people in the 35, 40 years old, and then there was people in their 65-year-old, that were complaining about having to go over these speed humps with their little car, or maybe jostling them a bit. It is kind of interesting. Now the table style speed humps. If any folks have driven around the Equestrian Acres, they've got kind of the larger speed humps that are out there as well. That are permanent installation, and it makes it to where it's it'll bump you just like going over the little intermediate speed humps, but it is a little more manageable for the vehicles. It's not as rigid.
Are those the same ones that they have on Snow Goose? Do you know? Has anybody driven Snow Goose? Are those the table ones?
And if I may also, about the stop signs, there's quite a few of the stop signs that have been rolling around town that I've been looking at that are very aged, that are faded out, and not as reflective as they should be. So I don't know if that's kind of on our list of things. And I know that we've talked about maintenance issues of cracked sealants and that kind of stuff, and I'm glad to see that that's kind of programmed in there, but I'm looking for a little more robust process this year.
On the crack seal, you said?
Just the maintenance of our sidewalks and crack sealing and whatnot, where we've had, where we need to have some, the grass, neighbors have allowed grass to swallow up a lot of the sidewalks. And so I'm hoping that this is gonna be like a campaign of encouraging folks to be mindful of that stuff, that it is the responsibilities of the property owners, and kind of take an opportunity to engage in conversations with the neighbors.
Okay, Councilwoman Sabrina Combs?
Thank you. And correct me if my memory is wrong, I thought also one thing that we were gonna look at, come capital budget time was the crosswalk across Arctic. Cause we had received the quote of how much it was gonna cost. Was that something that we were gonna look at adding in?
My recollection was it died at the table that night with a price tag, but if we wanna put it back in,
I thought, I just thought we tabled it until now. That's what I thought we were doing, but maybe I'm wrong. Just,
you can bring it up.
okay,
I
I'd
didn't
like
put
to
it,
bring
I
it
didn't
up.
put it in because I thought it was done, but it can be as definitely, that's one of those.
Yeah, cause remember. the
Yeah, I
last
remember it was gonna
that
come across and
they
Linda wanted to
want-
make sure it
They
didn't
don't
touch
wanna
her
cross
brouhaha, okay.
right straight, they wanna go
Yeah,
towards the next.
I just thought we had tabled it for capital budget discussion, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, if you want to.
I would, if we could see those numbers one more time, that would be good.
Okay. Okay. Councilman Carrington, you have any input, any desires? Or hold your peace or something?
Well, I would just echo, I think the website and, is definitely something we should look at some more. And, echo on most all these other comments. I think we need to kind of look at them on a little more detail. whether it's the elections or the speed tables, was it?
All right. Okay. So, anything
Okay.
else? Yeah. I'm sorry, Councilman Carrington, go ahead. Did you say something else? I interrupted you.
I was done.
Oh, okay. All
I'm
right.
done.
Okay. Okay, yeah, Councilwoman Burbrick, did you have some comments?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, I think one thing I'd like to maybe look into is the Stantec, the stuff that they presented to us and the idea of that dogwood extension. Maybe sometime we could talk about maybe the engineering on that, the cost of engineering for that. You know, maybe see if there's any, I don't know, anybody that would be on board with looking into starting some part of that project.
Yeah. Negotiations with property owners, I think.
Yeah, I had taken a little tour with the city manager and he had maybe another idea that could possibly work.
So Cedar is another potential, but it doesn't connect to the Glen. But if you're on Cedar, you can see that it's a straight shot through or next to where Cardeets used to be. So there's potential there to take it through. Again, it doesn't go all the way to the Glen, so you have to make a jog from the Glen down Dogwood to Cedar. So again, that project to do that connector, we could spend money on engineering, but until we and we can have budgetary estimates that give us various costs for different options, and then from there pursue property acquisition. But there's I can get it. We can talk to a couple of local engineers to see what an estimate for an engineer estimate might run us for some options there.
All right. And yeah, Councilwoman Berlares, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with most of these things that that have been laid out here. I would, and I don't know if this is the right time to say this, but I'd like to ask for support at some point for a work session. And maybe we get through this budget session, but maybe we have a work session to really sit down and go, what is important and what projects do we want to look at? I think it would be really potentially fruitful to actually be able to sit down and just discuss. We've got pages of potentials here, you know, but what do we want to start to think about prioritizing? I think would be really helpful.
Okay. In a certain area or just overall?
Overall, like just so we can sit down and kind of figure out what priorities would be.
We did have, I think that's been what, 2 years, 3 years ago? Yeah, where we, had that and had the board and everybody would put up 5 red dots or whatever it was, and, yeah, so.
Since I've been here.
We haven't done it since you've been here 4 years? Oh, wow, okay. Is he?
Ann Brooks, I think, was the one who.
Microphone.
I believe it was maybe Ann Brooks. I didn't realize it had been close to 5 years or more.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So, and if we are going to have somebody that is going to be a facilitator for that, then we would need to look at putting some money in the budget for that. Or unless we were just gonna, I think we've done it both ways, that I remember anyway. So I don't have any idea what a facilitator would be, so, okay. Okay, do you have any idea what are we talking 1,000, 5,000?
Absolutely no idea.
Okay.
I just think it sounds like if it's been 5 years, probably high time that maybe we sit down as a group and kind of think about what's important to us.
Right. Okay, Councilwoman Sabrina Combs?
I would just wholeheartedly agree. We should put some money in for a facilitator because I think it needs to happen.
Okay, so you would be for facilitator?
Yes.
Okay, good, okay. Alrighty, any other things we wanna throw out there on the table? I don't know if we'll get all of these, but it's good things to talk about and see where everybody's at. Okay, alright, so now I think we're ready for your motion, unless you
Sure.
wanted to add something else.
I don't. I move to come out of committee of the whole.
Is there a second to the motion to come out of the committee on the whole? Okay, alrighty, the motion before you is to come out of the committee on the whole. Questions, comments, amendments to the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you take the roll for us, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Jill Valerius,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs.
Yep.
Councilmember Steve Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Bass,
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Burbrick,
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is record of items placed on the table.
We have 3 items placed on the table tonight. One was from audience participation. That was Imran Chowdhury's presentation. It was a picture. We have the presentation from 4A's Venus Woods, and then we have the clerk's budget stats.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is audience participation. Anyone in the audience can come forth and address the council on anything, whether it was on the agenda or just a general interest you want to talk to the council about. 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, 5 minutes if you're representing a group. Audience participation is now open. Come forth, sir.
My name is Eugene Carl Hayman. I live in the Matthew Valley, follow the public process. When the public process is done appropriately, decision made by the governing body is more like in the public interest. What I'm going to be talking about principally is what I've been taking on the road for some time. Back in, I believe in October, the school board met. About 8 minutes before the start of the meeting, there was an item that no information was available for it. It dealt with the contract renewal of the school board superintendent. Some of you may have heard about my words, and I addressed it also out in Anchorage and some community councils out here. And I didn't receive really strong support when I addressed these community councils, particularly out in the valley, on my words. What happened is that before that, about in July, she had a renewal of the contract for a few more years. But this was a change that was shorten the contract to June 30th next year. After that, she would get a position as principal. But the clause on number 7 is the one I'm concerned about. But obviously, the notice and information wasn't out there. And in number 7, the words are these. The district releases Dr. Goyette from all actions, causes of actions, claims, damages, and demands of every kind and nature, mature to mature in the future, arising out of or relating towards superintendent employment with the district as of the date of this agreement. Which basically means, if she does wrong, she's not going to be punished. That's it. Where in the contract you have that, even for private sector. That's what's happened. And like note this is that it was 8 minutes before the start of the meeting that papers were put out there of this. I spoke first when it went on action. The union's representative spoke right after me, and they ignored what I said and just said she's doing a great job. But the fact is, I addressed the community council, I believe, a day later, and every board member from that school board who voted for it, except for one, needed to resign. But what we have also is a situation, I couldn't address the Borough Assembly until after the election. I couldn't address many parties until after the election, unless they were a community council. The end result, there was a cover-up, particularly by members of the press, because they heard my comments over a course of time prior to the election and during the election, and the words were not getting out. But unfortunately, the words are getting out even without the cooperation of the press. And the end result is there's only one choice. The fact that a superintendent of schools signed the contract to this change and allowed for this clause to be in there, she has no other choice. Yes, there was an election, but she has to resign. There's nothing to allow her. They can't even go back and say, let's change and get rid of that clause. Because the fact is the damage has been done. She has to resign. And all school board members have to resign that's party to that. All lawyers involved with it, that contract have to resign.
Time's up.
And this is not gonna go away. There's a continual addresses here and other places. And just closing, puts into question, are there any other contracts out there in Palmer, Wasilla, Houston, the borough, Anchorage, and the state like this? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forth and address the council? Okay, seeing no one, I will close audience participation. Council member comments? Council Valerius, do you have any parting comments?
Yeah, I wanted to, I guess, thank the city and members of the city for support from that I had last week to go to the newly elected officials conference for the first 2 days and then stay at AML, and it was a neat opportunity to really learn about the process and learn about what other communities are dealing with. So that was actually really great, and I want to thank Norma. I realized I hadn't thanked you for all of the work that went into the elections. So, thank you.
Councilwoman Burberg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also want to thank the city for the opportunity to attend the AML last week. It was very, it was fun and very informative, and I really appreciate the opportunity to go. I also would like to say Happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and then remind everybody that Saturday the 30th is Small Business Saturday, and to make sure to go out and shop local in Palmer. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on. And that's it. Thank you.
Councilman Carrington?
Just to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Councilman Best?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank council for allowing me to run for a board position on AML's board. Unfortunately, I did not win. Luckily, we have Councilwoman Combs already on board, and we also have another individual from the Valley, Stu Graham, with the Wasilla, that is on the board, and he will be the incoming president, or is now the president of the AML board. Recently in the newspaper, it was stated that the city of Palmer's manager was part of the discussion, and the council had been engaged in the idea of the online tax and with AML. And as we stated in our last meeting, last regular meeting, that we are part of the discussion. It does not obligate us to continue on with this program, that it is so that we can have the discussion to be engaged in the process. So I'd like to reassure the public that the city of Palmer has not decided as to what the view is, whether we agree with the AML policy as it sits right now, or what will even be passed. But this is a discussion that has to be had in the public. It has to be out there so that we all can be fully understanding of the process. So I would ask for some folks to allow us the time to have these discussions to be part of it. And I'd like to wish everybody a safe beginning to the holiday season.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sabrina Combs?
Thank you. I also had an amazing time at AML. There was lots to learn and lots of great folks to chat with. Thanks to Nate for helping me with the community thing. We ended up winning 3 categories, City of Palmer did, in technology, best pictures, and best swag. So even though he was reluctant to help, he did, and we won, so it's exciting. Wasilla didn't win anything. Let's see. I would also, Norma's help with AML is understated. She was actually on the team of clerks that actually helped run the entire conference. So kudos to you for doing that, and thank you. Thank you to Nate, Norma, and the staff for presenting the budget and being patient with us through all of our questions and comments. I know we still have a little ways to go, but I appreciate it. I would also ask for council support in forming a resolution to support the 4As and their mission. That's something I'd like to put together. I would ask for support on that. And Shot Palmer, that's it. Happy Thanksgiving.
Is there someone second to support for the resolution?
I would second that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Alrighty, we do have an executive session, and so we'll take a break and clear everybody out. I suppose, let's do 8 minutes, so that'll be 8 minutes, so that'll be 9 o'clock.
Okay, Mayor, I'll call back in.
Okay.
Steve Carrington.
Has left.
Okay.
Michael, yes.
Right.
Has left.
Walk the door, but it didn't take a chance to leave if they wanted to, right? Right. I mean, we'll come back.